So the other thing about the lack of perfect abstinence, I think it's important to understand a couple things. Like you mentioned the brain chemistry, right? I mean, substances do change your brain. They impact judgment, they impact emotional regulation, and a lot of things. On the other hand, recovery changes your brain too. Like when we start making new positive choices, those alter our brain the same way. And I think we underappreciate that. That same process can be helpful, but it takes time. And so in the beginning, your brain's still saying, you need drug, you need meth, you need meth, you need meth. And you don't sort of have the practice of the good habits or of dealing with the cravings or of handling emotions. Because one of the things I was terrified of when I was going to rehab was that I knew that the violence and the pain was underneath my drug use. And the fear is if the drugs are taken away, how am I going to handle that pain, right? How am I
Mm.
going to handle all the trauma that had happened to me that I knew was in there and unresolved? And so part of that relapse, or I wouldn't even call it relapse, part of the lack of perfection can be because you're having emotions that are surging now that if you've been sort of shoving them down and you don't have the skill set to handle them all the time, as well as you would like. It takes time, it takes practice. And that's why the longer someone's sober, the lower the odds that they're going to have another relapse or slip. Like once you hit 5 years of continuous sobriety, your odds of ever having a recurrence, which is the medical word for relapse, it's only 15%. And 15% is not much higher than the risk of you, for example, developing a substance use disorder. In other words, you're almost back to baseline as far as your risk goes. But that's part of what happens. You have to have time to sort of reformulate new positive habits and build up in a positive direction. And then often like me, I needed mental health treatment for my PTSD and my anxiety and all of that's going on. It's a lot. You're dealing with a lot in early recovery. You really are. And it's important to have the goal, and it's important to sort of do the work, but it's really hard to have perfection when all that's going on at the same time.